We're going to do things a little differently this time around. Welcome to the Where to Hunt podcast. My name is Eric Clark. I will be your host. And what we're going to change up is the time frame and the fact that I'm not going to be interviewing anyone on this episode. I'm just going to go ahead and preface that I talk fast. I have tended to regulate the rate at which I speak during these podcasts. So I'm going to change it up. I'm going to just talk like I normally talk, which is fast. So I want to get through these episodes quick. I want 5 to 10 minutes max to keep your attention. I don't need anything more than that. And I just want to hit up some quick topics. Every week I'm going to be doing a different topic. So this week's topic that I'm choosing to focus on is wading to hunt. Wade, like wading through the muck, wading through the swamp, wading through the marsh. Do you wear waders? What kind of waders do you wear? In fact, if you're bow hunting, for instance, I would assume perhaps if you go earlier in the season, September, maybe early October, it's not going to be that cold outside. The water temperature might be. So the question I would ask myself, actually, or anybody, is if you're wading, what should you use insulated waders or should you use non-insulated waders? Should you use thigh-high waders or are you going to use the bibs that go all the way up? What should you bring with you? Perhaps you get to the point where you do want to hunt and you had to get through some shit to get there, and now you need to bring your deer back through all the same shit you got through to get there. So a sled doesn't float, right? So what would you do to get that deer out? You need to have an exit strategy as well as an entry strategy. There's that fast talking, right? So it would seem that when the Blaze Orange Army goes out in gun hunting, it's obviously, November in Wisconsin typically is going to be colder than usual. There's been a few exceptions to that certain years, and it also depends on if you're hunting up north or if you're hunting, in the southern region or what have you. So, I do a lot of my gun hunting in the western part of Wisconsin along the Mississippi River. And boy, I tell you, man, I know there's some frickin' big deer around there. I've seen them. I've had a lot of opportunity at deers. Unfortunately, just wasn't in the right position at the right time precisely. So I would love to get some waders on and get at it, but I end up not having a fully executed plan as to how I'm going to get that animal out of there if I get one. The greater point I'm getting at here is hunting public land is difficult. You all know this. You're all public land hunters, not all of you, but anyone who's publicly hunted land or hunted on public land knows that it's crowded. So how do you get off the beaten path? You can hike further, but you're still likely going to find someone because usually there's going to be another entry point on the other end of the land you might be hunting. So on the other side of that, conversely, the big deer are going to hide. They're going to bed down. They're going to stay put. They're going to go nocturnal once they realize that their living room has been infiltrated by a big orange blob. So swamp buck hunting or marsh buck hunting or getting through the tall cattails to get to certain islands of wooded areas could prove to be very beneficial, and even areas that a canoe might not get you. So I know a few people who have quote unquote waded to hunt and had pulled off some decent success. I had a good friend of mine a couple years back that pulled a nice 8 out of some land in Pewaukee, public land in Pewaukee, believe it or not. But he had to work his ass off to get back there. And I know he waited, and he just dragged. He's a badass kind of guy. He just powered through it. Said it sucked pretty bad. Deer is nasty. It's wet. It was a pretty miserable experience, but, I mean, that's how you get it, right? So your likelihood of getting a quality deer, a bigger buck, could be better suited if you get way away from where other hunters are going to go, and they're not going to go. Typically, less people are going to be hunting in a marsh or in a swamp, just because it's an arduous thing, man. I'm talking to you guys, trying to figure out right now what type of waders I should wear, insulate. I mean, that's trivial shit. But at the end of the day, really, how you getting back there? You're doing a lot of freaking work. I mean, you're every single step you're taking is 2 to 3 times the step you would take on regular land, even if you're going uphill. Your feet are getting suctioned to the muck. You're carrying through all that weight every step of the way. You're dragging your leg through a bunch of crap. So because it's more work, there's probably a lot less pressure and probably a greater likelihood or probability of there being more bigger deer in those areas. The trick is then, do you get to a tree where you can potentially put a stand up? How do you hunt it? You're not going to sit your ass down in some water. So that said, it seems to be that we might be onto something with this. I had a comment from Carrie Zilka from HM Huntress, or Carrie Zilka. She's a pretty well-known personality in the podcasting industry and the hunting industry, especially among huntresses. She's a pretty badass chick. Check her out. It's a little plug for you, Carrie. On the other side, she responded with, we're trying to pull some content here through the Facebook page. She said, cool. Unfortunately, the only time I use waders is to trout fish. Looks like I need to expand my horizons. We also had a comment from Scott Ford, who actually happens to be with Mud Duck Guide Service. And he says, plenty of duck wade in hunts for me. They're my favorite kind. So when you're thinking of duck hunting or fishing, and I'm a pretty big fisherman myself, especially in the springtime, and I love putting the waders on and getting in some nasty spots because that's where the fish tend to be where I go. And I've had a lot of success fishing with waders, but I haven't really thought to apply it to hunting. So that's what I'm talking to you guys today about, is just trying to spark some conversation and thought process around wading to your hunting spot, putting on waders, going through some nasty swamp-ass shit to get to where the big monster swamp bucks are. And I want to know from experience who has had success with that or who hasn't. Has it worked? Has it not worked? What are your stories? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? This is all subjective. I am definitely by far not an expert. I go hard at the things I go towards, and I just haven't got my mind around wading out to a hunting spot because there's just so many moving pieces to that. So I'd like some feedback. I told you guys I was going to keep the episode short. I think right now we're at about 6-ish minutes and 30 seconds. So that'll be it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we're going to keep them short and sweet, so stay tuned for another one coming up soon. Have a great day and hunt public.